بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
سبح لله ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير. له ملك السماوات والأرض وإلى الله ترجع الأمور.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Deputy Chairman and CEO at KPC, Sheikh Nawaf Saud Sabah, KOC Acting CEO, Mr. Khalid Naif Al-Ataibi, and distinguished guests. After a very long pandemic era, with many events and conferences held virtually, we're glad to be physically back and welcome you today to the long-awaited 28th Annual Conference and Exhibition of the Gas Processing Association, under the theme, Natural Gas Value Chain, Opportunities and Challenges. My name is Abdullah Sudan Al-Nizi, Senior Public Relations Officer at Kuwait Oil Company, and it's an honor to be your host for today. Before we start, I'd like to draw your attention to the safety procedures in this conference hall. There are 3 emergency exits on every side of the hall besides the stage. In case of any emergency, please remain calm and proceed to the nearest exit. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this conference was expected to launch in 2020, and we're glad to see it happen finally. This year's 5-day-long conference is held under the patronage of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif Al-Faris, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Oil, and Minister of State for Council of Minister Affairs. The exhibition and the poster sessions will take place today, tomorrow, and the day after, and the workshops will be on the last 2 days. Kindly refer to the conference agenda and have a look at the great variety of events that will be taking place this year. I would now like to invite Mr. Hamid Lizwair, Chairman of the GPA GCC chapter, on stage to deliver his opening address, which will be followed by the GPA conference inaugural video.
صبحكم الله بالخير. Good morning all. Sheikh Nawaf Saud Nasser Sabah, Chief Executive Officer of Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, CEOs, Company Executive, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 28th Annual Conference and Exhibition of Gas Processing Association, which is being hosted in Kuwait by the Association of Chapter under Association GCC chapter under the theme Natural Gas Value Chain Opportunities and Challenges. On behalf of GPA GCC Executive Committee, I would like to thank the diamond sponsor Kuwait Oil Company for sponsoring this major event and providing extensive support to the organizing committee. I'm also honored to extend my appreciation to the other platinum, gold, silver, and bronze sponsor for their continuous support of the chapter activities and program. As we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic had rapidly affected our day-to-day life and disrupted the way we conducted business. In fact, the GPA GCC chapter was impacted by the pandemic, as this 28th conference was supposed to be held in March 2020, the same month that the World Health Organization declared the virus a global emergency. As part of its effort to manage the resulting precautions during the pandemic, the GPA GCC chapter resorted to a virtual and online platform to continue its activities. During that time, we conducted several virtual roundtable webinars covering different topics. The rotation of the annual conference, exhibition and seminar across the GCC countries has proven to be an effective way of promoting technical knowledge and attracting active participation of many companies across the region. It has also helped encourage the active participation of the executive and technical committee member of the GPA GCC chapter to promote their activities, which in turn produce significant achievement. The GPA did arrange a different field visit between the GCC companies to exchange knowledge and experience. Today, we would like to announce that we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of establishment of the GPA GCC. Today, we take a pride in announcing that the chapter has more than 30 members of companies consisting of NOC, IOC, vendor, and contractor. Moreover, it's incredible to see how the GPA GCC has developed over the years since establishment. Starting with less than 100 participants in the first conference, we have reached more than 800 participants from all over the world in the previous conference that was held in 2019. This motivates us to continue growing and achieve our goal of being recognized as a technical hub among the region associations. I would like to emphasize that the chapter's success couldn't have been achieved without all of your support. This year's conference program will start with a 3-day conference and exhibition, followed by 6 technical workshops that run in parallel over 2 full days. These seminars will be delivered by representatives from recognized companies in our field under various important topics. As mentioned earlier, the theme of this year's conference is Natural Gas Value Chain Opportunities and Challenges. There are many opportunities that we can capitalize on throughout the natural gas value chain. We are also experiencing many challenges that need to be addressed to ensure safe, reliable, and efficient gas processing from the wellhead to the customers. The GPA GCC chapter aims to bring knowledge, experience, and technology to the region in order to overcome the challenges and develop new opportunities. In conclusion, I would like to thank the sponsoring companies, the conference organizing team, presenter, and facilitators, as well as the exhibitors, for their effort in making this event an excellent opportunity for us to learn and to exchange knowledge. Sheikh Nawaf, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your valuable contribution toward making this event a great success. I'm sure that you will find it rewarding. Thank you all.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بمناسبة انعقاد الدورة 28 من المؤتمر والمعرض السنوي لجمعية مصنعي الغاز فرع مجلس التعاون الخليجي، أجدد التأكيد باسمي وباسم شركة نفط الكويت على الدعم الذي تقدمه الشركة للجمعية ولمختلف أنشطتها المهمة.
كما تعلمون فلقد عايشنا معا الظروف الصعبة التي تسببت بها جائحة كورونا، والتي ألقت بظلالها على اقتصادات العالم وسلاسل الإمداد ومعظم الأنشطة، إلا أنها لم تقف عائقاً أمام ممارسة جمعياتنا لدورها المعتاد والاستمرار بأنشطتها وتقديم خدماتها بصورة افتراضية.
وبهذه المناسبة فإننا نرحب بإخواتنا وإخواننا الكرام من المسؤولين في الشركات الأعضاء بدول مجلس التعاون الشقيقة، وذلك للعمل معا على رفع مستوى عمليات إنتاج وتصنيع الغاز في دولنا، وتبادل الخبرات والاستفادة من التجارب الكثيرة التي اكتسبناها على مدى عقود.
ولعلكم تذكرون اجتماعاتنا ومحاضراتنا المتكررة على مدى عدة اجتماعات، والتي ولله الحمد حققت نجاحا ملحوظا تطرقنا من خلالها إلى العديد من المواضيع التي من شأنها تعزيز أهمية الغاز في مستقبل الطاقة، ليس على المستوى الإقليمي فقط بل على المستوى العالمي.
ولا يسعني في هذا السياق سوى الإشادة بمستوى التعاون بين مختلف أعضاء الجمعية منذ إنشائها، وهو تعاون أدى إلى المساهمة في تحقيق العديد من الإنجازات لصالح الشركات والدول الأعضاء.
واليوم ولله الحمد نبدأ حقبة جديدة بمسيرة الجمعية،
وأتمنى من شبابنا من المهندسين والمهندسات الاستفادة من هذا المؤتمر، فهم المستقبل، ونرحب كذلك بجميع المشاركين الذين شرفونا بحضورهم.
نرجو أن يكون تجمعنا اليوم مثمر وبناء من أجل التركيز على التعاون وتبادل الخبرات ومشاركة المعارف والممارسات التي تساهم في تطوير صناعة الغاز بدول مجلس التعاون الخليجي، وذلك يعود إن شاء الله بالنفع على اقتصاد ورفاهية وشعوب دول مجلس التعاون.
ونحن على ثقة تامة بأن مشاركتهم ستساهم في إنجاز هذا المؤتمر والخروج بأفضل النتائج التي ستنعكس بالفائدة على الجميع.
ونرحب فيكم وأهلا وسهلا بكم.
حياكم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for the opening speech, Mr. Hamid. I would now like to invite Sheikh Nawaf Saud Sabah, Deputy Chairman and CEO of Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, to deliver the keynote address speech on behalf of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif Al Faris.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. CEOs, conference delegates, honored guests. On behalf of His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of the State of Kuwait, the Minister of Oil, Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs, Acting Minister of State for National Assembly Affairs, and Chairman of the Board of Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif Al Faris, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the State of Kuwait for the 28th Annual Conference and Exhibition of the Gas Processing Association, the GCC chapter. We have seen over the past couple of years how the oil and gas industry reacted to the dramatic events of the past pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic drastically impacted our lives and every aspect of the global economy. Lower energy demand caused by the lockdowns led to a drop in oil and gas prices that reached historic lows. In turn, many major industry players responded by sharply cutting their capital and operating expenditures. In a struggle to stabilize their cash flows, these numbers were cut by 10 to 80% in capex and up to 30% in operating expenses. Then, as the world was slowly recovering from the pandemic and energy demand was gradually recovering and increasing, gas security reached into the headlines, once again as a result of the conflict in Europe and the cuts in gas supply associated with that. The reaction of European gas customers to the shortage of supply and the resultant tenfold surge in gas prices proved without a doubt how much the world relies on natural gas as a clean source for power. This brings us to the theme of our conference this year, and that is natural gas value chain opportunities and challenges. One of the major challenges facing the gas industry today is the unpredictability of both gas supply and demand, particularly in light of the possible economic downturn and the rapidly changing geopolitical balances that we see today. In addition, although the natural gas industry is growing, it faces increasing competition from the global shift towards renewables. This shift is another major challenge that this conference will have to address. Of course, traditional physical challenges facing the gas industry in terms of geology, transportation, distribution, as well as the safety and integrity of the gas network continue to be paramount. The opportunities, however, are also vast. With gas widely recognized as the important intermediate fuel in the energy transition, we have the chance to cement the role for gas as a clean burning fuel for decades to come. These are some of the variables that this conference should address if we as gas producers want to remain competitive into the future. The uncertainties, to be sure, make decisions for new investments complex, giving rise to the need for advancing and finding more opportunities for process improvements, adopting efficient and up-to-date processes, and pushing for operational excellence. All of this is crucial if we want to overcome these challenges. The Kuwait oil sector is playing a vital role toward achieving the new Kuwait Vision 2035, which aims to transform our country into a financial and commercial trade hub by providing the necessary cleaner energy to fuel the growth of our economy and its infrastructure. Kuwait realized the importance of natural gas as a major element in its fuel mix for power generation, as well as a primary feedstock to its petrochemical industries. To that end, we took further steps to upgrade our gas infrastructure, including upstream production facilities for associated and free gas, along with gas treatment facilities and other investments. We have commissioned one of the largest LNG import facilities in the world with a capacity to take 3 billion standard cubic feet a day of gas, and built a comprehensive cross-country fuel gas network for domestic consumption. Moreover, our commitment to the Paris Agreement and our aspirations to create cleaner environmental conditions make it imperative to rely more on gas as a predominant fuel source for power generation. We are focusing on implementing the right technologies to improve the reliability and energy efficiency of our gas processing facilities and our infrastructure, thus reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. I hope you find this conference and the program an excellent platform to bring together the best talents in the GCC to discuss the gas industry and to share knowledge and best practices that will add value to our businesses. Finally, I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference and express my appreciation to them for all of their efforts to make this a successful event. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sheikh Nawaf. I'd now like to invite KOC's acting CEO, Mr. Khalid Naif Al-Ataibi, on stage for the Diamond sponsor keynote speech.
Deputy Chairman of KBC Board and KBC CEO, CEOs, Company Executive, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is my privilege to be with you today for the opening of the 28th Annual Conference and Exhibition of the Gas Processing Association under the theme Natural Gas Value Chain Opportunities and Challenges. And I am greatly honored that Kuwait Oil Company is the Diamond sponsor for such an important event. As the world slowly emerges from the turmoil of the pandemic, oil and gas demand is reverting to the pre-pandemic levels of 2019. In this higher prices environment, KOC is determined to increase its natural gas production in line with KBC's strategy to meet the local energy demand. This rise in production will mainly come from developing free gas from the Jurassic fields. KOC also signed a contract for the offshore drilling and exploration for oil and gas in Kuwait's territorial water, which is one of the most important projects currently being implemented within the framework of the company's 2040 strategy. In addition to upstream production facilities, KOC also owns and manages the fuel network that supplies power stations and all the other industries in the state of Kuwait with their demand for fuel gas. The network is integrated with the KBC LNG terminal to supply the increasing demand for gas and power generation. There are a number of economic and environmental challenges facing the gas business today across the entire value chain. Production and operational costs must be reduced in order for us to remain competitive. And environmental concerns must be handled proactively in order to protect the health of the community we operate in. To achieve this, we must optimize production systems to maximize efficiency, which in return will offset part of the exploration cost while minimizing emissions. Improving our environmental footprint to meet increasingly stringent standards from environmental authority is also a challenge that we must rise to. Our recent efforts is to minimize our environmental impact resulted in a reduction of our gas flaring rate to 0.5% for the 2021-22 fiscal year. Although the complications that face the gas industries are challenging, I am sure that with the determination of our leadership and motivation of our skilled employees, we will transform these challenges into opportunities that benefit the whole region. To conclude, I would like to thank the GPA GCC chapter for organizing this event to exchange technical ideas and best practices among GCC countries that will enable us to enhance the natural gas business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. We'd now like to share with you a brief video production about KOC's history.
الله سبحانه وتعالى رزقنا من بعد دعاء والدينا. نعم، فوق الأرض تحتها.
خلاصة الأرض التي أثارت فضول من عليها، قائد أدار الدفة للطريق الصحيح. لحظات مهمة شكلت مستقبل الكويت.
تم بحمد الله تعالى توقيع اتفاقية التمييز للتنقيب النفطي في الدولة.
APOC, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, starts the procedure of oil exploration, finally after almost 30 years.
الكنز الثمين الذي ابتهجت الكويت بسطوع معادنه لنخطي أولى خطواتنا، وما كانت هذه إلا البداية.
إنه يوم سعيد، هذا اليوم الذي نحتفل فيه بتصدير الشحنة الأولى من نفط الكويت، وأتمنى أن يكون فاتحة عهد جديد في تاريخ الكويت وتقدمها الحضاري بفضل ما أنعم الله علينا من خير.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بداية شهد عليها العالم أجمع، ودار صمام الأمان، ودارت معه عجلات التنمية، ليكمل قادة الكويت المسيرة أمانة تعاهدها الرجال لتعلو الكويت. لتمر 50 سنة من الإنجاز وتخطي العقبات، لنحتفل بوقفتنا التاريخية بالذي لم يرحل قبل توحيد صفوف شعبه وقلوبهم، لنحصل على شرف تعلم الكفاح من أرقى القلوب، لنستمر. وما زالت الكويت السفينة التي تنعم بالقيادة الإنسانية الحكيمة بفكر دبلوماسي، ليشرق صباح الكويت على الكويت أماناً، رفاهية وتطور، علم وعمل، ومكانة عالمية لها ولقائدها قائد العمل الإنساني، بالقيادة الساعية للتطور المستمر وعدم الرضا بالاعتيادية، بصاحب الإنجازات العالمية والذكاء الاقتصادي والدبلوماسي المطلق، لنستمر بالسعي، ليأتي اكتشاف النفط الخفيف مكملاً لهذه المسيرة وتصديره للعالم، ما هو إلا بداية لكويت المستقبل كما وعد قائدها، حيث يقود القطاع النفطي الاقتصاد، خالقاً منافسة وتعزيزاً في كفاءة الإنتاج.
هذا الذهب ثروتنا الاقتصادية، مهمتكم استثماره والمحافظة عليه. أثق أنكم راح تبنون كويت جديدة. الله يديمكم ويديم عز الكويت.
إن الكويت كانت وستظل بإذن الله تعالى دوما بخير وأمان.
تعرضت الكويت خلال تاريخها الطويل إلى تحديات جادة ومحن قاسية، نجحنا بتجاوزها وعبرنا بسفينة الكويت إلى بر الأمان، سائل الله العون والسداد والتوفيق.
We hope you enjoyed this video, which is one of the most productions we at KOC are very proud to produce. Our next segment is the panel discussion, which is held under the title of Future of Natural Gas Market Supply and Demand in the GCC. The panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Mohammed Hussein, former CEO of Equate Petrochemical Company and former Vice President of Gas Exploration Operations at Kuwait Oil Company. Mr. Mohammed, I'd like to welcome you on stage. I'd also like to announce our 4 guest panelists with us today. Mr. Abdullah Al-Ajmi, DCO, Petrochemicals and LNG at KIPIC. Mr. Badr Limnifi, DCO, Gas and Innovation at KOC. Dr. Sulaiman Khattaf, Vice President Technology and Innovation at Tasni'. Mr. Mehdi Shanoufi, Head of LNG Origination and Market Development at Shell. Please make your way to the stage. We'll now be starting the panel discussion. Mr. Mohammed, you have an hour maximum from now. Thank you.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It's an honor to be here with you today. I would like to welcome both here today. Thank you for coming. The session today, just before starting the session and introducing the panelists, let me take you on a small journey which has happened in the past and start to learn from that journey. In 1984, KUC sent an official letter stating there's no free gas in Kuwait. And that letter came after a tremendous 5 to 6 years exploration program, which has went through a lot of challenges. And they went to the depth beyond the 20,000 feet. In fact, we had even a blowout, problematic wells, and too many things. And after that program, they announced there is no free gas. After almost 10 years plus of that time, Mr. Khalid Smeiti and his team, I think some of his team is already here with us, they said, is that possible? How come the gas in the north, in the south, in the east, and we don't have the free gas? So they started to challenge the status quo. And they said, that's not possible. We must find the free gas. What they did, they started utilizing the technology. So we ran about the 2D seismic and the 3D seismic that exists in the fields. And that was one of the largest seismic run in Kuwait ever. And this was massive. In 1999, they drilled a well, Sabriya 153. And that well, surprise, surprise, got the gas. And they found it. To go more dramatic, they went to a well which is drilled in 1980s, Sabriya 73, and they re-entered in the well. And they found the gas. What did happen there? 3 or 4 critical things. The first thing, the team did not accept the status quo. They challenged it. And they challenged it very strongly. Secondly, is the mindset. They were open for others. They were open for a really different way of thinking. They were open to see what's possible could be done. Then they've been very innovative, and they utilized the technology the way it should be. This combination, بعد توفيق الله سبحانه وتعالى, really resulted to what we are seeing today. And that's really what we encourage, especially the young generation. Don't take it for granted. Challenge it. Challenge it. Today's session is about future, not the past, but we need to learn from the past. It's going to be for 1 hour. The way we're going to structure the session, really each panelist will have 5 minutes to give his thought. Then we'll have the Q&A. We'll give you the Q&A more priority for this one here. Let me start by welcoming my distinguished guest in this panel. First of all, Dr. Sulaiman Al-Khattaf. He is the Vice President Technology and Innovation of Tasni'. Mr. Mahdi Chunufi, he is the Head of LNG Organization and Marketing Development, Shell LNG Marketing. Mr. Abdullah Al-Ajmi, he is Deputy Chief Executive CEO, Petrochemical and LNG Kuwait Integrated Petroleum Industrial Company. You need to shorten that name somehow. Mr. Badr Mnefi is the Deputy CEO of Gas and Innovation Kuwait Oil Company. I'm going to start with Badr to give his 5-minute thoughts, and then we'll start with Abdullah, then with Mahdi, and we will conclude with Dr. Sulaiman. The podium is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abdullah, you took my opening speech, so what I will be saying is the following. Out of this history, I'm going to talk about the future, but I cannot talk about the future without the present. Kuwait's gas system is one, from the Jurassic fields to the consumers. And having said that, there are so many challenges that come in between. And the reason why I'm here is to explain to you in less than 5 minutes the role and the responsibilities of the Gas and Innovation Technologies Directorate within Kuwait Oil Company, not only for Kuwait Oil Company, but also across Kuwait. The upstream, mid and midstream challenges are the ones that need to be taken into consideration. Abdullah highlighted the discovery earlier, about more than 16 years ago, when we discovered gas. Accordingly, we faced two problems today. I would call them the aging of the reservoirs and the complexity of our responsibilities towards the nation of Kuwait. Under the strategic directions of KBC, we're seeking to increase our non-associated natural gas through exploration as well as development and production from the Jurassic fields. However, that also includes the produced gas as an associated gas that the GNI director is handling and ensuring that it delivers the total gas to Kuwait through the networks, which is I'm going to be talking about later. These reservoirs are very high in terms of responsibilities, where it's technically challenged, as well as they are very deep. We're talking about, it goes to the depth of about 20,000. That's, I think it's like 6 times the Burj Khalifa's tower. But at the same time, it's not only the depth that is complicated, it's very thin layer that we're hitting. So you can just imagine, by the time you pass the 10,000, you are looking at very small, tiny pieces. We're talking about less than maybe 20 feet of pay zone. That's one of the things that our technical people are challenged by. Also, it's a very high temperature, high pressure area, as well as it's a sour gas. Another challenge, which is going to be tackled, and I feel proud that we are handling very well, and that's going to be also for assuring that the future supply in the consumer for Kuwait here is going to be internally, it will be covered, is the transportation and distribution of gas across not only KOC networks, but also throughout with our customers, through our K companies, sister K companies. Our engineers and technical people are harmonizing and the fluctuating volumes, qualities, and the pressures to ensure that they deliver to the downstream facilities and consumers. Bearing these challenges in mind, in addition to the unpredictable dynamic fluctuation of gas market, a solid plan needs to be sketched. Therefore, to ensure that there is alignment among the stakeholders as well as consumers. What we have developed throughout last year is what we call the gas coordination and convergence. Coordination in ensuring that we deal with our sister companies as well as the customers to ensure that we deliver the oil at the right quantity, quality, as well as sustained. Having said that, there is another element, which is the convergence, and that's to ensure that we are not only looking at today, but the future, when there is a gas mixture and the fuel mixture. When there is if there is a shortage in gas, we can always switch to a different fuel so that we can power our power stations. Gas is the backbone of Kuwait's energy system, distributing more than half of its primary energy. It's about 55% of Kuwait's electricity generation. And that's, having said that, we need to make sure that we have a technological understanding of today and the future challenges, and we need to adapt to the circumstances that we have and ensure that our priorities are aligned for the energy transition. Decarbonizing the O&G value chain and advancing Kuwait's low-carbon economy entails innovation and technologies. Within that segment, we do have a group called Innovation and Technology that is responsible with the guidance from KBC and the direction from KBC to ensure that we are not only looking at today's problems, but also ensuring that we have solutions in the future. One of which is probably the expansions of our network that is capable to handle extra gas that might be coming in the future when there is a growth in the population and the needs for electricity. We have developed a dynamic and technological roadmap that's not only on paper, but it's in reality. It is being executed and it's being monitored by various levels of management, so be it KOC or at the level of KBC. One of the important things, which is really critical, and that is the human capital. And I believe it is important for us here to ensure that we are developing our technical people, especially in the oil sector and the gas, to ensure that they are not only providing the solutions for today, but also in the future. We need to lay out the foundation for them through the proper alignment with universities, technical labs, and so on and so forth. My forward looking is the energy industry in the GCC will be facing a crossroads. One, sustaining the hydrocarbon revenues and managing the hydrocarbon maturity point. In conclusion, I would like to re-emphasize the two elements that I have just highlighted earlier, and that is gas is going to be a transition fuel, and gas is an integral part of our energy system, and building the national capabilities to ensure that they are going to be the forefront for the future energy system. Thank you very much.
أنا راح أخالف بدعة بدر المنيفي. I'll be speaking on my seat. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I would like first to thank KOC for hosting this important event, and I would like to thank you, Mr. Hussein, for the introduction you gave us. To talk about the future challenges and opportunities, I think I would like to take the audience a few months back, when, as Sheikh Nawaf mentioned, we have commissioned one of the largest LNG receiving terminals in Kuwait 14 months back, that have started a new era in the way Kuwait manages its energy supplies. The 14 months of successful operation gave us a very good idea about how can we be better prepared for future with the challenge that we have seen and the opportunities that we know are potentially existing. The biggest challenge we have seen in the past 14 months was on managing a minimum send out during low demand season, which is winter season. During winter season, the demand drops to its lowest point, which means if we go below the threshold of 0.4 billion SCAF per day send out, we will have to go for flaring which is a violation to the environment rules as well as a disturbance to the neighborhood. We have managed very well to avoid that in the past winter season, and we think for the next winter season we are better prepared because we are expecting to start operating a Zora refinery complex, and that complex will be a major consumer of our LNG gas. The consumption by Zora refinery as well as the power network in Kuwait will safeguard us against potential flaring. The second top challenge is the market situation. The market situation, in the normal course of work, it is possible to predict what will the market do in the next few months, but there are situations like the situation in East Europe which are difficult to predict ahead. But right now the market have absorbed the shock of the East Europe situation, and we are going to see back to normal prices, I hope, in the near future. The situation and opportunities available that we are examining right now, opportunities for leasing and reselling gas again. We have conducted performance tests for exporting gas for a terminal that has been designed for import. And we are going to examine the possibilities and the feasibilities of exporting gas to various consumers in the world. If this is proven, we'll proceed with that direction. The GCC have been talking about exchange of gas via piping network since the 1990s. But the progress achieved in that direction is very limited. We have seen only the Dolphin line from Qatar to United Arab Emirates and Oman, which represent a very limited utilization of the vast opportunities available. And we are hopeful that the will of the GCC nations will act in the direction of expanding the network and making use of the available gas, LNG gas in Qatar to benefit the entire region. Okay. We have invested also on the human resources. We have started first of all by an operation and maintenance contractor who took on his shoulder the responsibility of operating the plant safely and reliably. And we are injecting our young Kuwaiti engineers and staff to transfer the knowledge of operation and take on their shoulders future operation of the plant. And we are confident with the knowledge and skills we have in our people that we will be able to do that. The last point I want to talk is we are embarking upon a digital transformation initiative, and the LNG facilities will have its fair share of the digital transformation application, resulting in optimizing the cost and maximizing the benefit. Thank you so much.
Distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting Shell once again in this very important conference. I will focus on the global environment and really the societal changes and how this impact the GCC. And first of all, maybe a reminder, energy powers civilization and is a major contributor to the stability and the continued prospects for economic and social development. But that had consequences on our Earth ecosystem, and we are facing those consequences today in a way that is more visible and more profound than ever before. So as a matter of urgency, we need to reduce emissions and the impact our industry has on our natural ecosystems. Yet, today, right now, a bit less than 1 billion people have no access to electricity at all. 1 in 10 still do not have access to clean water, and 2 billion people still consume solid fuels to cook and to live by every day. So we not only need to manage the impact of our industry on our natural ecosystem, but we also need to meet the growing demand for cleaner energy and, of course, improve quality of life for billions of people. But all this is very easy to say, except that none of us can predict the future. None of us can predict the demand, and none of us can really predict the supply. And that's where LNG comes in, and that's where Kuwait went. Kuwait and other GCC countries import LNG and will build the capability to export gas or LNG depending on the supply and demand globally. But the challenge remains the same. As you all know, this region accounts for 50% of the world's oil export and about 15% of the world's LNG exports. Today, there is about 100 million tons of export capacity for LNG, and this region accounts for around 30% of the growth in gas production. So it's a material partner to the rest of the global energy system. But a very ambitious GCC should embrace the 3 challenges. The first one, as you've probably heard, many of the customers, especially in the Far East, are requiring carbon neutral products. It started with LNG, but you've seen carbon neutral LPG and crude cargoes as well. So the first challenge is really to accurately and transparently measure, report, and verify the emissions. And of course, avoid and reduce greenhouse gas emissions when possible. The second challenge is to invest in compensating for the emissions through nature-based solutions or technology. And the third, of course, is to invest locally and abroad to restore our ecosystem. CO2 emissions are cumulative, and while we wait for new technologies to be available at scale, we need to do something today. And the one thing that is available is, of course, nature-based solutions. So in summary, the GCC has a major role to play and is already playing a major role, both in producing and consuming cleaner energy, but also in deploying human and financial capital at home and abroad to avoid and reduce emissions, but also to offset when removing and reducing is not possible, and invest in the poorer countries to help them with their biodiversity and natural ecosystem challenges. Thank you for listening.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here with my family in Kuwait. As you know that natural gas is the subject of the year, it's the subject of 2022. Everybody is talking about natural gas. It is the fastest growing fossil fuel in the world now, and it is share in the mix of energy in the world is expected to increase from 23% to 27%. Its share in the power generation worldwide, 25%, growing annually 1.3%. It's by far one of the most important sources for energy. In medium term, it's seen to play a major role in the transition to net zero, 2050. In the long term, it has some concern because it's still emitting some CO2, and all the world, as you know, going to renewable clean energy. This is one aspect. However, my only view about that, it is going to still very important source because it will be the source of the blue hydrogen, the future, for the future. Now, as you know now, this demand is because of the following: population growth. Everybody is looking now and talking about climate change, and by far, natural gas is the friend for the environment, and also switching from coal plant to gas plant. In the US alone, the reduction of the emission of CO2 is by 10% because they switch from coal to gas plant. Now, if we go back to the GCC country, mashallah, they have 20% of the reserve of natural gas. They are producing currently around 11% and consuming 7%. So they have surplus in their gas. And they are trying, GCC country, to manage their gas portfolio by the following: trying to invest more in renewable to decrease the demand, and also to exploit unconversion like shale gas, sour gas, and also managing the gas price locally. I can see that there is some change in the policy in gas pricing, and also exploiting and investment more in conventional gas. In GCC, as you know now, our gas is allocated basically for upstream because the gas is reinjecting to support oil production, and also power generation, and in industry. Industry gas is being used for both as a fuel and feedstock for ammonia, urea, and methanol, and some country, of course, in GCC is exporting this gas. For our countries, the energy demand is increasing hugely because our area, as you can see, prosperity and industrial revolution, and also population growth, all of that are pushing for more gas. We believe that in the coming 20 years, our need for energy is going to increase by 50%. 60% of that increase is from natural gas. So there is a big demand for natural gas, and we believe that this is the bridge between the renewable and the fossil fuel. Now, if you ask me why natural gas is important, natural gas is important because it can give more energy. For example, 1 kg of coal or oil and natural gas will give more energy and less carbon dioxide, and by that, as you can see now, everybody is going for less carbon emission. I believe the GCC country have a huge opportunity in that one by increasing investment in natural gas and also increase investment in renewable energy, because renewable energy will decrease their demand on natural gas. And as you can see, our area is a special area because our climate demand a huge energy, especially now. Because of that, you can see the demand is increasing. For example, in Kuwait, in the last 10 years, the demand for gas is almost between 50 and 60%, a huge demand, and that also push for more import for LNG. في المملكة also, we have 35% demand in the last 10 years, and a huge investment we have heard about from Saudi Aramco They are going to even to reach 170 billion metric ton in 2030. It's a huge investment. So in conclusion, I believe it's an opportunity and challenge. The GCC country can be the source of this clean fuel because we have a huge reserve, and I hope that we can exploit this one for more prosperity for our people, and we can maybe later on to say about the future project. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank my panelists for their introduction. I think the question will be coming through the phone, so whenever I see the question, I will make sure that will be answered or already passed to the panelists. Just before that one, I mean, the theme of the whole session is about supply and demand. And we talked about, before the session, the unpredictability and the difficulty of that equation. Dr. Sulaiman, let me start with you. Where do you see that difficulty come from? Why we are really having very difficult time to predict the supply-demand equation in the gas business? Yes, please.
Thank you, Abu Abdullah. As you can see, the problem in natural gas is the things is happening in the world. Now, what happened in Europe has affected everything, disturbing all the energy system in the world. And I believe that because of that, the natural gas is, first of all, as you can see, the most important challenge of natural gas is difficult to mobilize, not easy to mobilize. Since you have a pipeline system, you are stuck with this pipeline system. And because of that, it's not easy now to, for example, to go from this system to other system. LNG is a flexible system that can allow people to take this one from here and there. But I believe to answer your question, the situation in the world is the major reason for that one. We have Corona. Suddenly, we don't want any LNG or any gas. And the gas was $2 in Asia during Corona. And then we have Ukraine. Suddenly now the gas is in $50 and $60 million BTU. So this is very strong and very strange and very difficult to manage. You cannot manage.
Let me jump to Mehdi. Mehdi, you are in that market. You are living it day, night, everything. How you see it?
Two aspects, again, as just highlighted now. It's either a pipeline that gives both parties a monopoly, or gas is transported through its liquid form. And unfortunately, I'm not an engineer, but
we have plenty of them here, don't worry.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. There is no solution to the cost of storing LNG. And like oil, you can't store it for too long. The consequence is that the overall value chain cost of liquefying, having very large regas terminals with a large number of storage tanks, like Korea has, or Kuwait, is a value proposition that only a few countries can afford. In the absence of these tanks and these regas capacity, you create bottlenecks when you have shocks. And that is what is happening today. Make no mistake, the price of gas is not necessarily the price of LNG, because people need to pay a fortune to access regas terminals and tank capacity. I don't know if it makes sense. So if you see TTF in Europe at $50 per million BTU, that's the gas price in Europe at the hub. But LNG will be at a material discount to TTF, sometimes $10, $20 per million BTU cheaper, because Europe did not have the regas capacity needed to deal with these types of shocks.
Are you saying the infrastructure is not prepared for such a high demand?
the infrastructure in Europe was not indeed prepared for a shock of this type, and it was very difficult to
Let me
predict.
jump at your end. When you mentioned we are building that infrastructure, trying to be prepared for it, how you see we'll manage this supply-demand here in Kuwait?
I'm optimistic that we are doing very well. The decision to build the permanent terminal came after more than 12 years of importing gas during high demand in summer season by the FSRU option. And we have seen that over longer than 12 years, we have made a saving of equivalent to 2 billion KD. So the decision to build the terminal was based on experience.
Do you think that will balance the supply or the demand in Kuwait, and you make sure that's always that gas needed in Kuwait is available?
Yes, it will give us more options. We will have the option of utilizing the LNG in a bigger share of our energy demand. We will get a cleaner energy, and we will have the opportunity to re-export in case it is feasible.
Better, again, back to the supply demand. Maybe we are talking about locally here for Kuwait. Where do you see the supply will continue to really be sufficient for Kuwait, or will still need to look for some other sources of the gas in Kuwait?
Well, I do believe that we took a very strong outlook years ago, and accordingly we're building capacities to handle the gas development. In the coming 2 years, we will be increasing our gas capacity by almost, I don't want to say double, but closer to a double capacity that we have currently. We will be able to inject into the system closely to what we are producing today. So in a nutshell, we will be developing, and what I talked about earlier in my speech, the infrastructure in Kuwait today can handle the future growth of population and I would say industrial complexes to some extent. Yet definitely the import will be a player, but when the prices are very challenging for us, we believe that we can do that by increasing our development, drilling the wells, and ensuring that we're delivering them with the optimum cost and the right technologies implemented.
I have several questions here it's all around the carbon and the environmental change and that side of it. And I'm going to just ask you that challenge, which is really a very critical challenge. From my reading, I found out there's 7 theories about the climate change. The one which is we are talking about the mostly is one of them, which is the only one talk about the fossil fuel. The 6 other theories, don't blame fossil fuel for that one. How you see we can manage really the reality of this climate change issue? Observation, nobody doubting that one. Nobody doubting there is change, there is things happening, that's nobody's doubting. But really the cause or why it's happening, that's what's also a lot of scientists talking about. And I think I have some of the question talking about that one. What's your thought in that challenge? How we really the best way to manage it? And really, do we have different options, or that's the only option, which is managing the zero carbon issue, which is we need to put in there? Let me start with you, Badr.
Well, Abu Abdullah, I'll be very frank with you. I believe that sometimes we don't need to listen only to the scientists. We need to listen also to what the society requires to ensure that because we are responsible to ensure that they have the lifestyle that we and probably previous generations had in the future. Therefore, think within our, at least, sector of oil and gas, we have opportunities to ensure that we are producing a cleaner fuel. And we've had these success stories. It's not magic, but it's when you are aligning the appropriate scientific
analysis and technical people and ensuring that we have the right investment. If I have the right investment, probably we've been fortunate that we built the LNG terminals. These are really critical success factors to expand. And I believe that our sector is taking a very high, responsible steps to ensure that the future generation will be dealing with it. Another element which is really critical, and that is the human, the young generations, men and women. They need to be also given a chance to develop their own future, rather than putting the future for them and designing it for them. I want them to be part of this design so that they are going to be responsible to ensure they deliver it and live in it.
Dr. Suleiman?
Can you hear me? It's a very controversial subject, and we can see that lately in this crisis, the West is starting using more coal, more gas. So it seems the climate change, I believe that we need to be careful. We cannot, nobody is 100% sure about it. Still, it's theories, started from Exxon's in 1970s. But of course, using clean fuel is a very important thing, it's strategic. Going more gas for electricity and power is very important. Phasing out the coal, which has more than carbon emission, it's sulfur and other things which is bad for environment, is also important. So it's still controversial, we are not sure, and I think the science is evolving toward capturing more carbon, and I believe still the world needs all sorts of energy. However, we can, the coal aspect is still more controversial, more pollutant to the environment.
Abdullah?
I think this is a debatable matter. The debate is strongly, I think the solution is to strike a balance between providing maximum environment protection, at the same time cover the demands of the consumers. As Dr. Suleiman mentioned, in the recent crisis in East Europe, a lot of European countries have went back to coal because they simply have an energy demand. They have a demand that will have to be covered. So when the demand comes, all protocols vanish. I think the key is at least what we are doing right now in Kuwait. We are investing heavily on improving our products in terms of reducing the emissions, and at the same time we are maintaining a fair supply to our customers. There is no magic solution.
Mahdi, I think you have a very strong heart for this one, so give us your thought.
As you know, I'm a biodiversity activist. It's funny, without oil and gas, we would have no trees, no animals left. I think everybody understands that. Europe would have cut all the trees of the planet to keep warm in winter. But that being said, we've seen how, personally I've seen it, how Delhi changed, how Beijing air quality changed, how Kuwait City air quality changed the moment gas really replaced high sulfur fuel oil or coal. So even if you forget the CO2 emission issue, it's an air quality problem. So the solution remains the same. We need to reduce these emissions to improve quality of life. And then on top, I think we need to also invest in restoring our natural ecosystem. For me, it's quite straightforward.
Fair. I have a question here. Any of you can take it. It said, how do you see the LNG market in the next 5 years? Is it tight? Maybe, Mehdi, you take that one?
As you know, traders never predict the future well. Right now, it's extremely tight, but people will have a tendency to adapt. So we expect demand destruction, and as discussed earlier, we expect countries to switch from an expensive fuel to much cheaper fuel, like coal, and things will readjust over the next few years. But the current supply of LNG cannot meet the demand that we have in front of us. There is no doubt. So it's tight for a few years.
Dr. Sulaiman, this question specifically said, practically speaking, can both use of natural gas for increase in energy demand and meeting net zero emission target by 2050 coexist? Can the gas production and zero emission coexist by 250?
Yes, they can.
2050, sorry.
Actually, without that, you cannot even, because the world needs energy. They need every source of energy. Now the technology is going to play a major role, but you can take the energy from natural gas and capture carbon. So we need more natural gas and more technology to capture CO2. I think in 2050 you'll see the gas and you'll see oil, you'll see even coal, because the world population is going to 9.5 billion people. From where are you going to give them energy? You need energy for those people.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand this one, but this is specifically for KOC. Said the following better. Since the pay zone is about 20 feet only, which is the depth of Kuwait water, at 20,000 feet, is it possible to go for production? I think it's possible, yeah, but
we are producing, and we're using technologies that probably been designed for this harsh environment. Having said that, recently we had some laterals that were, at the time when the discovery was taking place 16 or 17 years ago, it was not possible. Therefore, yes, we are producing from these zones, and guess what? We are going to a thinner layers too.
Fair. This question said the following, and I leave it for you who want to take start at this one here. It said, artificial intelligence is disturbing many industries nowadays. What is your vision for the AI in gas processing to overcome the mentioned challenges? Where we see the AI will help us in really overcoming these challenges in the future? Again, I will leave. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. This is a very interesting topic, and because we are dealing with very high temperature, high pressure reservoirs and toxic, we call it toxic, it's sour gas, we need to have the least possible opportunities for human to be interacting with this commodity. Therefore, technical people have designed some quick techniques and special, unique techniques, I would call them, to trigger and put some sensors to ensure that the gas is flowing at the right amount with the right quality, and whether that quality gets delivered to the gathering centers, i.e., Jurassic facilities, production facilities, or downside to the terminals when it comes to the consumers, tracking. Now, AI means you have to have big data, you have to have the right technical people, men and women, to put their know-how into the system. So it is not something that's developed off-shell. You have to be able to train and develop and ensure that continuous training. And I would call it partnership with various technology providers, IOCs and NOCs, to ensure that this AI is not only on paper, but in reality. And we do have some programs in the coming 3 years about AI.
Any other comment? Yeah, go ahead.
I see a vast opportunity for artificial intelligence application, both in the operation and maintenance facilities, to reduce the dependency on human factor and to maximize the accuracy of the results. This will be examined in the next 3 to 4 years time frame. But there is a vast opportunity.
Any other comment on this one? Fair. I mean, I have a specific question to Quebec. Said, based on the situation we are living in, how Quebec can further enhance the LNG facility position globally?
The current situation is we are examining the feasibility of leasing some of our storage facilities. Right now, for almost 14 months of operation, we have seen the capacity utilization ranging between 60 to 67%. Sometimes we go beyond that, but most of the time, 1/3 of our capacity or more is available. We are examining the possibility of leasing that much for others, and or buying at a price and selling at a higher price later on. But we have not concluded our feasibility studies.
Let me ask you a general question, since I think I have, there's one question, I don't know, it said, can Kuwait gain carbon credit from LNG operation? Do you think that's possible?
I didn't look at the laws and the links between the UN CDM program and Kuwait, but many countries gain credits by switching from high greenhouse gas emitting fuels to lower. But you have to prove that you did it solely to reduce emissions and that you did it uneconomically. So I wouldn't know the exact answer.
Again, I think from my past, I think this is, KBC did work in that one, and I'm trying to, I don't know where they stand today, but I think they did work in that area actually. Let me ask you a general question. We are talked about challenges. What you see in a nutshell, I mean quickly because we don't have much time, where do we see the opportunity in the different fields you talked about? Let's start with you, Doctor.
I think in the gas industry, the opportunity will be in the future in hydrogen, because the hydrogen will be the very important source for future. And natural gas can easily be converted to hydrogen and capturing CO2. This is the future, I have no doubt about it. Hydrogen is the very important source of energy. And now, of course, between this stage and the future, natural gas will play the bridge between that stage and this stage. So it's a very strategic source of energy that we need to invest more to get more gas and also to clean that gas.
Mehdi?
Yeah, I agree. It's really around building human capabilities for the production of cleaner fuels, but also for offsetting. So it's really anything that is around capturing carbon, sequestering carbon, should be something this region tremendously benefit from. Remember, it's not just about production. You also sell to millions of customers who need your help to reduce their emissions. So since you have the capacity and the technology, you may also implement it in other countries to help them capture the CO2 from their own consumption sites.
Again, I mean, we are running out of time, and they want to take a picture, so I'm going to sit down. For doing that, I would like to leave this last 5 minutes. Each one of you, I will start with you, Badr. What's the takeaway they can take from this session?
Takeaway is, first of all, I think technology is going to be a vital role in our and the future generations' living standards. Having said that, it's an opportunity rather than it's only a challenge that doesn't have solutions. Secondly, building on Hani's point, is the human capital. It is important, it's vital to ensure that the knowledge that's been harvested throughout the years is either shared with the local, internationally, and definitely ensuring that our future engineers, men and women, are equipped with the right resources when it comes to living their future. By the right education, I think we need to be developing new skills required, skills that are not only applicable here locally, but I would say I'll go even beyond regionally to ensure that we have the right mix of knowledge and living standards.
LNG is a very important source of energy. The resources available in the GCC gives a very advantageous position for the GCC to be a reliable exporter. And we with more political will, we can have a GCC network that will make each and every country self-sufficient. I think we need to put more effort also on the training of our local staff on various operation and maintenance activities relevant to the LNG facilities.
Mr. Mahdi?
I must do the publicity of LNG. Of course, it helps. It's, as you've seen, it's extremely flexible, and it allows import, export, or diversion. But as a region that has been at the forefront of meeting the world's energy needs, societal expectations are changing. So all you have to do is adapt and meet those new needs. There is nothing new. You will be extremely successful. I have no doubt about that. Whether it's low sulfur or lower carbon, it's the same. You adapt every time, so I'm not concerned at all.
Yes, my message from here is to increase the investment in all kinds of gas, conventional, unconventional, sour gas, because as you can see, our country's demand is increasing, and we need to increase the investment in that one in order to meet our demand, number one, and also in technology to be able to capture CO2. Last message, renewable energy is very important to mitigate our demand for gas. However, renewable energy alone cannot do it. And the proof, you can see in Europe today, renewable energy cannot support Europe because you need renewable and fossil together. Thank you.
Just to conclude, in conclusion for this session, I would like just to share with me to thank Dr. Sulaiman Khattab from Tasneem, Mr. Abdullah Ajmi from Quebec, Mr. Berim Nafi from KOC, and Mr. Mahdi from Shell. Thank you very much for participating with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you. When Mitchell and his gang faced the trouble in the early 20s to really supply the gas to the US network, what did happen, they have came up with a really significant, major initiative by producing gas from the shale. If you ask the geologists before that one, they will tell you that's not something which is we look at. Gas cannot or oil can be shale. However, technology, people, innovative thinking, بتوفيق Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, prove otherwise. So please, let's continue challenging the status quo and continue proving things we can do better and more with little in the future. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank our dear moderator and our guest panelists. You may now return to your seats. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now hold the awarding ceremony. Meanwhile, I'd like to invite Sheikh Nawaf Saoud Sabah, Mr. Khalid Naif Al-Ataibi, and Mr. Hamid Al-Zwayr on stage to deliver the awards. We will be first awarding His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif Al Faris. Receiving the award on his behalf will be the Under Secretary of Ministry of Oil, Sheikh Dr. Nimr Fahad Al Malik Al Sabah. Thank you, Mr. Nimr. Moving on to our guests who are currently on stage, starting with Sheikh Nawaf Saud Sabah for the first award. Thank you, Mr. Sheikh Nawaf Saud Sabah. This award is for KPC. Next is the sponsorship for KOC. Receiving it will be Mr. Khalid Naif Al-Ataybi. Thank you very much. And the last award for our dear guests on stage will be for Mr. Hamid Zwayer, Chairman of GPA GCC Chapter. Thank you, dear guests. We will be now awarding the next segment of awards for our panel discussion members. Thank you for your insightful panel discussion with us today. We'll be starting with our moderator, Mr. Mohammed Hussein. Mr. Abdullah Al-Ajmi. Next is Mr. Badr Limnefi. Moving on to our international guest panelists with us today, Dr. Sulaiman Khattaf. From Tasniya. not least, Mr. Mehdi Shanoufi from Shell. Thank you to all our panel discussion members with us today. Moving on, we will now award the former chairperson of the GPA GCC chapter, Ms. Wadha Al-Khatib. And Dr. Ahmed Shams, the previous vice president of GPA GCC chapter. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Moving on, dear dignitaries, please remain on stage for the next set of awards. We will now recognize the sponsors who have supported the chapter and contributed to the success of this conference. The diamond sponsor, Kuwait Oil Company. Next is the platinum sponsor, Saudi Aramco. I kindly ask all representatives from the sponsoring companies to be ready for being called on stage with us today. Next is the gala dinner sponsor with us today, Kuwait National Petroleum Company. Strategic sponsor, Kipik. The representatives of Kipik with us today. And the gold sponsor, we have a list of gold sponsors that will be called with us today. First is the Bahrain National Gas Company. Thank you, Banagas. Next is ADNOC. Next is Equate. Huntsman. Kindly ask Huntsman representative. Next, Nouri Industrial and Baker Hughes. Next is Dow. Parker and Pecco. Parker and Pecco. Next is Elcoot Projects. Elcoot Projects. Moving on. Next is Honeywell. And our last gold sponsor for today, Schlumberger. We have 5 silver sponsors with us today. First is Tatweer Petroleum. Next is Oman LNG. Next is BASF. Next is Atlas Copco. And our last silver sponsor with us today is Shell. We have three bronze sponsors with us today. First is Petroleum Development Oman. Next is Floor. Our last bronze sponsor with us today is Contracting and Marine Services. The last sponsor with us is the lunch sponsor, ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil. Moving on to the conference organizer, Iconics. We're done with the awards now. We kindly ask you to remain on stage, our dear dignitaries, for the three upcoming group photos for the three committees. The first committee that we will be calling on stage is the Executive Committee. For the first group photo. Thank you very much. A special mention to the technical committee members who have provided their undivided attention and dedication by ensuring that every year we have selected papers which add value to the conference. We would like to honor the technical committee members of the GPA GCC chapter who made this event and all events in the past a huge success. Please make your way to the stage. Thank you, dear technical committee members. And a big thank you for the organizing committee members as well, who are behind the success of this event. We kindly invite them on stage for the last group photo. The organizing committee. Thank you, organizing committee members. And thank you, Sheikh Nawaf, Mr. Khalid, and Mr. Hamid. You may return to your seats. Thank you very much. Regarding the awards, I'd also like to note that there will be a second awarding recognition at this hall for all the committee members individually, the best papers, best students, and exhibitors after the exhibition official opening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now the time for the official opening of this year's exhibition, which will be held in the lobby. We'll invite Sheikh Nawaf Saud Sabah for the ribbon cutting, announcing an exhibition, and all our dear guests may follow after. Meanwhile, to keep you on track, I'd like to remind you that right after the exhibition opening, to kindly return to the hall for the second awards recognition, which will be followed by a break for prayer and lunch. The second part of today, consisting of afternoon and poster sessions, will start right after, with coffee breaks in between, as well as 3 raffle prizes. Thank you.